Hello, everybody. So I wanted to give a little update, kind of talk a little bit more about this new series I've been working on around HIV and AIDS and the AIDS epidemic and kind of the 6 degrees of separation. And so it started, I did a fellowship in 2023, Art and Peace Building Culture for the Political Leadership Academy at the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter School for Peace Building and Conflict Resolution at George Mason University. So, yes, that was a mouthful. Okay. But um, I was invited to apply for the program. And at the time, they said they saw that I was, politically active in my work and all these things. And I was like, no, I'm not. I didn't think of myself that way. I never have, at least to this point. Um, but one, being queer, being black, you're already radical, you're already revolutionary. And then I'm out loud, I'm living out loud. I tell people the things and I show up how I show up. If you know, you know. So, I was like, sure, this will be something interesting to stretch myself and to grow. And one of the lecturers that we had was Chalky Friend. He's a Lebanese artist and professor at George Mason. And one of the things that he was the first lecture we had, and something he said that stuck with me till now or since then. And it was like, what's the fire within that you want to show in your work and that you want to tell the world about? And I was like, okay, like to that point, I thought I've just been making work. Like I felt like the work that I was making was aesthetically pleasing. It was, kind of a little decorative. I was kind of doing the flower petal abstract things that I do, and I was doing some other collaging. But there was no for me. There was no like gravitas. There was no like, what am I really trying to say? What am I really doing? What am I really responding to in the world other than like spiritual practices and things of that nature? That's always been a part of the work. But when he said that, I was like, okay, what is my work? And like his work is so moving and haunting, like in a good way. It makes you sit in your emotion of like, because he's doing a lot of work around the war in Lebanon and you know having to immigrate, and so there's so many different things that he's talking about. And you just looking at the work, I was welling up. I was like, whoa, okay. And that emotional reaction is like, I want to do that with my art. Like, I want people to feel something real deep. And so, 2023, that happened. And I was like, I took some time to really like consider it. And I, had some residencies and I thought about the, those questions. Um, and then in 2024, my partner was started doing shadow work journaling. And when he kind of told me about the prompts that were in the book, in the journal, I thought, oh, these are really great for like working on my memoir. These are really great prompts to really dig into those questions about your past and your experiences and your traumas and how you work through them and all these things. So I started doing the shadow work journaling, and from doing that, I pulled up a lot of conversations around my past, around my coming out story, but then also my HIV story. And so then I was like, huh, this is the first piece that was like literally about my HIV story, and like then also considering the elders that we lost during the AIDS epidemic, and how I feel like the millennials are like a lost generation, the queer ones, at least, because we, especially the gay men, because we lost so many elders that we kind of had to figure it out on our own. Like I know for me specifically, my mom, she loved the gays love her mom. So one of my cousins was queer. Interestingly, he went to Micah for fashion, which I'm about to go to Micah for, my MFA. But there's that. But then we had she had other, family friends that were queer, and she lost them during the AIDS epidemic as well. And it's like, I would have had more mentors, more, um, role models to look up to had that not happened, or, all these things. And so that's kind of where the interest in exploring this body of work came. And so, like, just doing this piece and seeing the reactions that I saw, especially with like more older generations, Like there's been a few times I've seen people just stand and like start tearing up and start you kind of you see the emotion in their body trying to come out, and it's like, whoa, what was that? Like what am I on to? And so that's where I really wanted to dig in deeper and be like more intentional with the work I was making, because I felt like that's the work of an artist to really get that reaction, to understand like the deeper reaction from the audience and from the patrons. So doing more of my story, there is a part of wanting to dig in deeper to understand the community story, because my story is my specific story, so what else don't I know? But then also I was very intrigued as I started doing more research around different stories you see, and what are the narratives that you already are hearing. And so I never really got a sense of those 6 degrees of separation. Like you would hear from the family here and there, but you wouldn't always hear from the community and at large. And so I'm really interested in doing it intergenerationally, especially the people that went through the AIDS epidemic. Like, what was their experience, especially like losing friends and family at 21, 22, 18. Like these were young people, and it's like that's crazy. And so, like, what does that do to you as a person, and how do you get through that? But then also looking at it now, like people like myself living with HIV, and how do you like helping people really humanize and understand the stigma that's attached to it, but then also helping to break down the stigma. You don't break it down by not talking about it. When we talk about things more and more openly, that's how the stigma starts to go away, or at least it's not as taboo of a topic. And the whole point is make this a conversation that you're having openly, because it's something that affects everybody. It's not a gay disease. And so I really wanted to focus on those stories from the community, and really seeing what I can pull out and tease for the artwork itself. And so, what's that going to look like? So, it's a little bit of an oral history project, and then that oral history will be infused into the work that I create. So, I want to expand beyond just my narrative, kind of speak to a general and overarching narrative. And so, what I definitely have noticed, some things like a main theme line is grief and resilience, and like how do we work through these tough moments in our lives and find hope to carry on and to keep pushing forward. And that's been very much the like I've recognized that as like probably like the main foundation, of this series. And like it that also makes helps it speak more generally to everyone, having that conversation about grief and resilience, because we all understand that, we all go through that. And so using that as the focal point, um, that might be using that as the focal point to build this body of work. I'm really excited to see where it goes. It's going to be expansive, I'll say that, in the work, then also in the type of work I'm doing. Probably video, sound, potentially performance, might make a song or two. So, there's a lot of things that I'm interested to bring into this body of work.